That's not
Yeah, we have no idea what he was eating.
What's that?
No idea what he was eating.
And I. quickly started spinning off, rip away from it. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Although it was. Yes. Oh, yes. It was interesting, they had both of them out on West Beach the other day, and there was a dead. Well, and I've never seen that.
Yeah.
But both Gil and Brett went over to it, sniffed, and then didn't pay much attention.
Lucky you.
Shampoo, good dog. All right, Mike, I'm doing fine. Well, fabulous.
Well, no,
What? You like my email at the end of last week, that just, he just.
Yeah, he's just so, yeah, I mean, he's talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even what the
Yeah.
issue is.
Yeah.
And it's a private road. There's nothing to do with us. We went down to get some friendly advice that wasn't taken. So they still got a problem.
Yeah.
I can fix that in 2 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna touch
It's
a
just
private
one of
road.
those classic, Chris. You can't get out of whatever fact, whatever mindset. is in.
It's just.
All right, why don't you get someone ready so that.
You know whether Martha's coming? Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It is 12:02. And we're just gonna, if you don't mind, just waiting for a second, because I want to make sure that Martha isn't just on her way. Thank you. No. Ah,
So, yeah.
your timing is impeccable. Oh, really? Hello, everybody. For those of you who weren't here or didn't see or hear, we had a public hearing last week. And sort of it developed into a series of very good questions, largely from Molly, about the sort of nuts and bolts of some of the capital projects. So we decided to schedule this meeting so that we can have broader discussion and Q&A on things like Northlight, Graces, et cetera, that side of the budget. So I don't know whether you want to start with whoever wants to start can start, Tom or Mike or Marianne. But there was a desire for more detail. I only have about 14 copies of this stuff sitting on my coffee table at home. Sorry about killing trees. Can we talk first about Northlight, please? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Just walk us through sort of the detail on that, if you don't mind, Mike. I appreciate it.
The thinking there. The official one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For years, we've just been putting Band-Aids on that building.
Mm-hmm.
Been going on and on. It's basically a big, beautiful building with only one floor, the ground floor. The upstairs is completely undone. It's basically just studded right
Yeah.
now.
In recent years, there's been talk about an innkeeper, having somebody stay out there
Mhm.
or keep up the building. The way it is right now, we wouldn't never be able to do that. So
Right.
this is to get things started and finish the second floor.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it's just studded. It would need, obviously a bathroom. You can see where the old one was, but it's gonna need a bathroom, electric, plumbing. Sheet rocked, it's the whole 9 yards, insulation. So that was the thinking with the Northland.
Further questions on this one? Anybody?
What about windows and outside?
The exterior has been fine, and they've been doing work on it. The windows, the ground floors. Go ahead. Tag team.
So, in the current budget, which is publicly committed through, 2024, included. Sorry.
Included reglazing some of the west windows and putting storm windows on, building storm windows and applying them. That work is about 75% complete. It will be completed this fall after the season. They'll be back to fin. So the building, some of the gutters are falling off, window trim, and then some of the steel plating on the tower was showing accelerated decay. We're working between Abcor, which did the southeast light, as you know, and Robbie Gilpin are out there frequently measuring up what to do. I think there's a little bit of steel welding on the top of the tower where a seam had split. As you know, it's cast iron
Yep.
versus steel, so it splits.
Right.
And that is all fully funded, but it expends all the available funds through Capital 24. In Capital 25, we wanted to take care of, now that the building was tight, we wanted to take care of that. We were hoping for maybe a windfall of funding in that area.
Yes,
But in the meantime, we still need to keep the train moving.
right.
So we wanted to get the plumbing and electricity up to the second floor. The bathroom looks like a tub fell through the floor at some point in the past.
Yeah.
So all that needs to be rebuilt in anticipation of something else. On the window subject, Martha, without belaboring this too far, the second floor windows are all egress windows from the current, the legal building code. Third floor is not. So, at one point we were imagining, say, a lightkeeper's apartment on the third floor and some other kind of apartment on the second floor, but we may be limited by egress to that. We're exploring as historical.
I'm sorry, I'm flipping the second and third floor in my mind.
Okay.
This third floor is the one that's just got it.
No, they're both gutted.
But there's nothing in the third floor except the rafters.
It's just a big loft.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, thanks.
And then the tower is one floor above that. So it's basically just to keep the structure moving and get the systems under control. It's, that's not enough to do much, especially out there.
Yeah.
That.
I said, I said it at a meeting recently, it's really worth going to see. I mean, Robbie was kind enough, a year or two ago to actually walk me through it, and it gave me a much clearer perspective on that building. It's one of those, pictures worth 1,000 words, kind of situations.
Do we have any estimates on the mechanical that need to go in there to bring it up to date?
No.
Right. And the project right now will be 100% watertight with what's budgeted?
As much as 100% is, yes. I mean, according to Abcor, it'll be tight for the next period. What happened was we didn't do much, I'd say right after COVID, we didn't do much and the weather got into it. And we had to go much further in than just a coat of paint. They had to replace a lot of quarter round and decorative molding and stuff like that. One thing, if you do out there, you'll appreciate is I asked, how come all the windows on the west side are used frosted glass? And they said, we didn't.
It's all sandblast.
It's all sandblasted.
Fascinating. Bill, you have a question?
Yeah, is there, I understand the concept, but on the budget, is there a breakdown exactly how we get with 200,000 and identifying what those funds are actually going to, whether it be windows or whatever. it might be.
We don't have more detail than that number. I think that number you punched into the budget a couple sessions ago, and so we don't have estimates to go with it, but it's 200K, as you all know, it's gonna take it pretty much just bring services up to the floor from the basement
Okay,
and not much more.
go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, you know, in all the other departments, we asked for breakdowns on the budgets, for the police, library and so forth. And I don't object to the concept of doing this, but I think to just throw a number out and go spend it, I think there should be, some planning that's put forward as to, okay, we got bids, we want to put in the bathroom, we want to put in the, whether it be replace windows and doors, so forth, we have a breakdown. But throwing these arbitrary numbers without anything from a conceptual idea, not from a planning idea based on actual what it is, how far is it gonna go, what's been prioritized, you know, whether it be the bathroom, it might be. So my problem isn't with the concept is, my problem is that I think the budget should be detailed, just like if you were building a house or anything else, or like we asked every department.
Any other questions about this?
Just to clarify, I thought you said the windows were going to be done with this year's money.
They are,
Okay, so this is interior work,
yes.
but basically just bringing the electrical and plumbing up.
Yes. And we'll, you know, we don't want to get too far ahead until, there's, you know, an agreed to plan for that space, but we know we need mechanicals up there. Which would basically at this point be plumbing, drain, waste vent and, electrical.
Is there an existing report on the building now? Its current state and its needs? From anybody?
I mean,
Current one, no, probably not, an older one, I would think.
How far back do those date? If you were to guess.
Within 20 years, I would guess.
Prior to the work that's been done.
Yes.
The tower was relighted, it was relighted in 2010, in the fall of 2010.
I mean, I think the most important thing about this building right now, since it's in pretty good shape, I mean, I have been out there very recently and like you say, the exterior looks pretty good and so I think our number one priority should be getting that open to the public. Funding a position for somebody who can go out there and open it to the public and take fees from them, you know, for admittance and share the history of that building that we are spending an awful lot of money every year to preserve. And I don't think that money is wasted at all. But the number one priority should be to get people in there. So my first question would be whether that's going to happen. My second question is, I mean, fundamentally, did we decide, I mean, did a prior council decide that they wanted a living space in there? That's not a question that has come before us. But maybe there's like the Northlight Board, maybe that's a decision they made that I just don't know about. So do we want a living space in there? I mean, as if it wasn't like hard enough to live out here with a driveway and, you know, access. Just, you know, that's just a question, right? Like, and I'm not saying it yes or no, I'm just saying, has that been decided? Who decided that? And my third question would be, if that's been decided that yes, we need a living space in there, is the construction of the living space going to interfere with opening the museum to the public? Those are my questions.
I can touch on a couple of my there.
Yes, it is funded to be open this year, and it is planning on being open this year. Construction going on? No, it probably wouldn't inhibit that much. Of course, most of it would be done during the winter months when it's not open. But because it's on a separate floor, it would not inhibit the museum part of it. As far as decision to have it habited, I don't think an official decision has been made because there's nowhere to put anyone. at this point. Even if it's just a basic second floor, fixed up, well, then the conversation can certainly be had to have someone out there. I believe if you want to keep that building up and running, you got to put somebody on site there. To have it just sitting out there, it's not doing any good. And as far as getting out there on the road, I'll move out there in a heartbeat.
So I guess procedurally,
Mm.
I'm saying we might be putting the cart before the horse if we haven't had an official decision that there should be a living space there.
So
That
what,
should happen.
Well-
And then I've been to the outside of that building hundreds of times, never been on the inside. So I have no idea what the makeup of the inside of that building is. So, but that's my point. It should be open to the public, and I don't want to find out that we have further reduced the number of days it can be open by doing a construction project too.
I hate to
So-
blame everything on COVID, but that was sort of when things came to a halt out there as far as
And
museum part.
for what it's worth, just sort of anecdotally, when I was out there with Rob Gilpin, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, my sense was that the plan was to put someone out there, long before that was, now whether the North Light Commission made that decision or the town council made that decision, the idea is exactly, it sounded like to me, the idea was exactly what Mike was saying. And I think it's fair what Rob has been saying, which is to do this kind of drive the pickup truck out there a few days a week and try to, put fingers in the dike is a problem. And then it's not like any of us disagree with that. But I had the sense that this was a decision that was the best way to maintain and enhance the property. That's what I recall.
I don't know when any official decision has been made, but I know that's been the conversation since Herb Whitman was first warden, which is going back a long way, like decades.
They'll be talking about me like that someday.
Again,
I won't be, because I won't be alive that many days. I mean, it was the seventies, the eighties when they first started working on the lighthouse. And I think if anybody has any kind of history of that place, work is done. We think we've hit a great milestone. Everybody goes out and oohs and ahs over the basement and the first floor. The museum is open. Then like in 10 years, it's like, wait a minute, what? We have to do all this over again? And I think that's the real point that you're talking about. It's not my ideal place to live, but because it's not my ideal place to live, I've heard plenty of other people, and I think part of it's a dream and part of it's a plan. But I don't think it should be, I mean, I think I live in the end of the earth as it is, but I know that has been I do think you'd have people interested, serious people.
I come back to town in May looking like Tom Hanks in that movie Wilson.
They used to
So
row across the pond when the keeper had children in school.
So assuming then that this has always been the plan, I sort of want to speak to what Bill was saying before, like, do we have hard numbers or are we just like, opening a checkbook? I don't, like, do we have estimates for these things, like for
I
the
mean,
work that needs to be done?
if
up
we were
there?
opening up a checkbook, we probably had a couple more zeros to get it done correctly, but which is not going to pass. So this is to, get things going. For a good 20 years, it's been sitting there doing basically nothing. Let's start doing something with this building.
The only hard number we have, right now, Molly, is 45,000 to replace the solar system was donated decades ago and is barely putting out, which is causing the generator to have to run much more than it needs to, it should need to. And, hopefully it doesn't mean we need to replace the generator as well. So we want to get that solar system replaced right away. We have an estimate that Robbie put together. I had one from a commercial solar company that was 60. Robbie was able to whittle that down to about 35. So that's part of that. Just yesterday, we were in there with the state boiler inspector and he said, you're good for a while because it doesn't work very hard. But, the well's always questionable. Septic is probably fine, but these are things, as Martha said, you touch and then you don't go back. And then weather gets into things real fast out.
And then, so you think this is, so to go the other direction, you think this is enough money to finish the project? Like,
No,
That's why we've been working
No.
with Ørsted on this.
so this is not enough money to finish the upstairs of the building?
Go ahead, Bill.
So can you tell us what the 200 is, Tom just said, 45 is for the 20, 35, 45 is for the solar. Can you give us a breakdown of what the other 100, whatever it is, 60,000, 5,000, what that's gonna go to? Because I think that would also, where you have the planning, I know it's a start and everything, but, I feel like you're asking for the money, there should be some breakdown, and that's not to say that those numbers are cool, you know what I mean? The solar comes in 5,000 more, a little bit less, but right now, you're asking $200,000, we don't know how it's going to be spent, and it's not reasonable, and and like I said, not a lot, but just and I think that would also set the direction, whether it is your priority, whether it is the apartment or downstairs, whatever it might be, I think would be clearer for people. I mean, I would hope the council.
I mean, in building, you're gonna wanna do the plumbing and the electrical first within the study. So yeah, and you add in the location of where that is gonna eat it up pretty quick. So I would say, we can break down the numbers probably individually between electric and plumbing and insulation and sheet rock. And that's probably close to 200,000.
I appreciate that, but I just think when we come in with a plan, those numbers make it easier just to accept the whole concept.
I understand.
That's all.
I understand.
I guess I'll just touch on what Bill's saying. So we have nothing. We haven't talked with the manager or anybody. We have no hard numbers, no estimate from anybody on the mechanicals or the electrical or.
No.
Okay.
Can you give us that breakdown, please? When you.
Yep.
Can we talk about dispatch? $100,000 for dispatch. What's in that bucket?
That is, that whole dispatch center, there's absolutely
Right.
no safety
Yeah,
codes to that. As far as hard numbers on it, it would probably need to be a lot more than what it is. There's drastic upgrades that need to be done in there.
right.
Again, this would be probably to prioritize the main things.
What are the main things
One
there?
One is,
I'm a
it's
total layman.
supposed to be enclosed, vault-like area. There should not be any windows to the exterior. Should be bulletproof glass.
So is this sort of a way station project? We're gonna get it to a certain point where it's safe, but it's not a full renovation. Like what is it? What does
Right.
it look like
Right.
to you?
What do we start with? Hardening the building first, doors? We're going straight interior? We're gonna have to change the egresses.
Yeah, we probably get what we can with that money. I don't see us enclosing it in a vault like it, technically should be. But certainly the windows to the exterior would have to be eliminated. The bulletproof glass would certainly have to be installed. You just shouldn't have people walking in off the street.
Are the dispatchers themselves, is there some plan to have them have some input into this?
Yeah, there would be. Yeah, I'm sure as far as, you know, the design or, you know, how they're going to be set up in there.
Well, when you say
Yeah.
eliminate the windows to the outside, so I know obviously the windows should be bulletproof,
Mhm.
you know, but eliminating them also eliminates any light. So I'd want like,
Mhm.
you know, that's a dark space already, like, you know, what would be, what's the plan to
Well, there's
counterbalance
certain
that?
codes that it needs to be brought up to, and it's nowhere even close to that.
Oh, it's not just COVID, I mean,
No,
I mean-
code.
Code.
Code. yeah. It was
Basically.
like, oh no, it's had problems for years,
A
Basically-
sea followed by a long O is
Yes.
COVID.
all I'm hearing.
But if I can interject, there's a whole underwriter laboratory specification for a communications dispatch center. That thing means nothing. So what we would have to do is go to that code with some consultation for the people that do that kind of thing and find out what happens. It probably cannot be on an outside wall. It's supposed to be survivable in a fire of that building. It has to be relayed. You can't be giving out beach permits at a walk-up window.
No.
Right.
You know, maintain a critical agency, but there is a UL specification for that facility. And we would have to figure out the job. This is, I think, more to study what we would have to do. Matt Moynihan started,
Right,
and I don't want to jump on Chief Paul Dean or Kirk or anybody's toes, but he was looking at, you know, swapping the kitchen with the
yes, he
dispatch
was,
center. He was looking at, you know, putting it in the core of the building and moving the meeting room around a little bit and
right,
all those ideas, none of which were fully vetted, but that's the kind of thinking that this first money needs, is to establish a specification. And
well, and that's what I was sort of getting at
Right.
last week when we talked about this, that was a great idea to swap the kitchen. But because then you have the dispatch in an interior area and it would be a new build. At least that room would be a new build. But that doesn't appear to be the plan, right?
there is, I don't have a plan in my pocket. I think the first money would go to develop a plan.
Okay, but and I guess what I'm saying is, it seemed very upsetting to the chief of police last week when we talked to him that there was a plan in that building being discussed that he was not aware of. And so to avoid a problem like that, I would like to just make sure we have very few dispatchers. We're not a huge department. I don't think it would be a bad idea to include them in the conversation, show them what you're talking
Yeah.
about, get some input. You know, I mean, let them pick out the color or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? But like, I don't want to
Oh,
avoid
absolutely. Yeah.
bad feelings.
Yeah, I mean, we don't work in that building. We shouldn't be making that plan. We certainly use their input.
But conversely, the color is one thing. The actual codes and standards are, apparently that's a whole different realm. And I don't think the dispatchers know that any more than I do.
That's
Correct.
what I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying you have to start with the codes, I thought the bulletproof glass was put in years ago, so go show what I know. But I do think you have to have somebody in charge and you have 15 people, it's not gonna work.
Can I ask a practical question here? Would it make more sense to not do $100,000, but to do, say, I'm making this up, $25,000 for a planning, code analysis, engineering and estimating on this? You know what I mean? In other words, is this if $100,000 isn't going to get us there, we're in the midst of figuring out what the public safety building is going to look like. Does it make sense to have a lower number that finances a real plan a real plan being, look, these are the bare minimum things we need to do while we're doing this other thing. Does that make, I mean, I'm literally just asking, because it sounds like from what Tom's saying, that this may not be perfectly straightforward given the circumstance we find ourselves in. But I'm perfectly open to the idea, look, Keith, we got to get people out of that vestibule when they're looking for fire permits. Okay, tell me that and tell me what that's going to be. So just query whether that makes sense.
I just don't think 25,000 would go very far.
I'm not
Even the
talking about
design-
construction.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, with design and engineering and consultants,
Yeah.
all that. I don't,
So I guess what I'm saying is, or asking is whether the bulk of the resources that are in the budget, the proposed budget, are sort of for planning, analysis, design, et cetera, or whether the bulk of the money is, bulletproof windows for the exterior of the building, which are 15 grand, and a covered vestibule that or an automated system for doing fire whatever.
That's a good point. The building has supposed to be sprinkled for that function.
Right.
It goes on and on. Well, this data that we gather will help with the layout of the new projected firehouse. All that has to be figured in.
So what we're talking about with dispatch, this 100 grand, is largely planning, design, et cetera? Is that, because that's new to me. If that's the case.
that's the way I would look at it. Because I don't think 100,000 is gonna come close to it.
Planning and design would 50 come close on that?
I'm sorry?
With planning and design, is planning, whatever the requirements are that have to be gathered and by, I presume, people who really work in this field,
Correct.
you're going to be able to, if something happens and suddenly money falls from the sky for another facility, you'd have a lot of information that you could transport over. Wouldn't you?
Yes.
So I don't want to be putting money into a design that's just going to float away when something else happens.
This project is not clear at all. And to be honest, it's not clear at all. So first we started safety, then we went to sprinklers, which that's part of the safety aspect. Then we're gonna move the building. I work in that building. It's changed through the last chiefs. Do we have a plan right now with the 100 grand? Is it a concept or are we gonna actually do some work up there?
It's to keep money in there to get something going because nothing is going right now. And we certainly need a design. We certainly need some consultants to get in there
Okay,
and start telling us what to do instead of, I mean, that buildings look like that for forever. Let's do
Yeah.
something.
Mhm. So to ask, re-ask Martha's question, would 50 grand get us planning and design? No.
Yeah, it would get us far enough along.
Go ahead, Amy. You-
Five, we could ask for real money.
Just because I think there's another element here,
Yes.
which is a concurrent path. There is evaluation that needs to be done and there's real work that needs to be done. I think the minute you scale down to 50, you're not doing real work. You're only doing planning. And the concurrent path is that we are still evaluating the timeline of a new public safety building. So at the
Right.
point where that is closer to execution and occupation, we want to invest less
in the existing center, but still make sure that it is safe in the interim. To the extent that that timeline starts to slip over the next 12 months, if it does, then we have some evaluation and planning understanding in order to decide whether or not we want to invest additionally, because the dispatchers will be occupying that space over a longer term. So there is some hedging there that needs to be done.
That's very helpful to me.
I
And
think
it's,
there also needs to be some work executed immediately.
Okay.
That's my perspective.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I was asking those questions. Is it a planning exercise? Is it a construction exercise? And yes.
And it will, hopefully have additional clarity as the timeline for the public safety complex resolves.
Bill.
Not to, it's the same I talked about on the other project. I have nothing against, and I support fortifying the dispatch. I have, it was presented that, hey, we need 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 dollars, but that's what it's gonna cost to do this study, do such and such, support 100%. But the problem is, we're asking money, we're putting money to, there's been no, we don't know what it's going to.
Mhm.
It needs to be brought forward if you expect us to support it. So if it was to say 25,000 or 50,000 was the planning architect, and we priced out for whatever it be, local grass, glass, new lot, I have no problem. Those things aren't being put forward. It's just give us a sum of money, a pool to work out.
Mhm.
And I think that's where, like I said, I'm not gonna repeat it, it's the exact same thing said on the other project. That's just, I've never, the police department came in and said, you need $200,000 we're just gonna perform public safety. And I could break down on any of their items in the budget. You send it back, say, give us a detail exactly what it is.
Mhm.
So I think that's what needs to be put forward, and I think we get what's going for. I think these are concepts, they're not plans. And I support it if it's presented that way. It's just, I do have a problem saying, hey, here's $50,000. Let me know how you did it.
So I appreciate Amy's clarification on this because I'm very much in favor of this expenditure. I think our dispatchers, I mean, we know that we had a dispatcher who was threatened by a man with a gun years ago. She hasn't worked there for years, right? And we've said, let's do something about that, and we haven't. So we should do something about this. We're very late on it. So I'm very, especially given Amy's clarification, very much in favor of spending the money. I'm just, again, worried about like, what's the number, right? But also I would want to have some clarification from the town manager about what are the other things that we're doing to keep the public out of there? Like, where are the fire permits going? How are the people gonna pay their parking tickets without being physically at, like, have we moved to an online payment portal for parking tickets? Because those are the reasons that the public is going in there. I mean, and to use the bathroom and to report bike accidents and stuff, but like emergencies are different than every day, like I gotta pay a parking ticket, I gotta get a permit. So I'd like to know where those things are going.
Where those are going, we haven't decided yet. And when you usually do this, if you go in any kind of police station and they have a vestibule, a lot of them have what I call it a banker's drawer, where they slide it out, people put payment in and you slide it back in. They're behind glass, closed, bulletproof, so they're not accessible to the public. It's a simple vestibule. If you look at a lot of public schools right now, they're doing the exact same thing. What this is doing, and Bill brings up a good point, we don't have the detail. We don't have the detail because we're not sure what we'll be able to do. It's an old building. Walking into that facility, I could not believe it the first day I walked into that facility, that the exposure to our staff and even to get up to the police chief, you walk in, you walk up the stairs, you're at the police chief's office. That what we're trying to do is put a solution there on a temporary basis so we can get this public safety complex built. we probably should have addressed the public safety complex 15 years ago, and we're still working on that. We're looking at the funding of that. I can't stress enough the important, and I think you folks get it, is the safety of what we're trying to do. $100,000 will get us somewhere. It's not going to get us everywhere. The glass alone is probably going to eat most of the $100,000. As far as moving people and doing online, Paul Dean has said this year's NAPIA is going to do the online parking tickets. He wants to get through the summer, and that'll be something he's starting to address next year. We've also been assigned someone on the accreditation that is working with Paul Dean. We've been assigned that. I put that in my town manager's reports. He's from Newport. He will also offer some suggestions as to how we can address that facility on a short-term basis as we do our strategic planning on a long-term basis for a public facility. So to get into the weeds at this point, say where we're going to put this and where we're going to put that, I don't think that's questions we should be asking at this point. I think we should be focused on 100,000 and what we can accomplish. Then as a team, the team being the fire department, the building, finance, how we address those payments and where they're going to do and how we can get more online. Look at what we've done this year in the town clerk's office. All those applications are now online. Fire permit may be the next one. Other communities have done fire permit. We've been strategically adopting these things and putting implementations in place over 3 years. It doesn't happen overnight. We will get there. I think what we really need to address is this, what we're trying to accomplish here. If you're looking for more detailed numbers, I'll bring Tom and Mike back. And I'll ask them to get specific numbers. Maybe they can work with accreditation. Paul Dean is in court today, so he couldn't be here today. So I think, you know, Amy has said it, they've said it. This is the year we had 3 department heads come forward with this, asking for this 100,000. So I think if you're looking for more details, fine. I can handle that, and I can get the team to give more details if that's what you really want. I'm not encouraged by cutting this back because that gives another year before we even start doing any kind of implementation. I'd rather keep the 100,000, and then if we come and find out, we'll probably do stuff that we can do. It's not going to address the whole project. $100,000 is not going to address the whole project in that respect.
And it's not clear that we want it to.
Correct, because
That's the challenge here.
I mean, we're finally
How do you dance up to the line? It's like whatever, having our mainline car that has 170,000 miles on it, right? It's hard. Go ahead, Bill.
I just want to be clear, I'm not advocating to cut this.
No. Bill, it's heard. It's heard.
We know exactly what the funds are earmarked for. And other than some changes with it, that's what we expect. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you. No, I didn't get the sense you were opposed to it. I think the questions are worthwhile. This is a worthwhile exercise. And what I'm hearing is some of this is we gotta see what we can do and what we frankly would be wise to do, given a parallel conversation that's going on. If I understand it correctly. Any other questions on this one? Let's see. Can we talk about, Chris, can you hear us? I know Kirk's here. Can we talk fire equipment?
Can you hear me now, Keith?
Yes.
Okay, very good. You waiting for me?
Well, we're just sort of, yes, why not?
Okay, so last week sometime you guys had a meeting, I was watching it. There was a lot of questions, good questions asked. I had put a paper together. I got that to Mary Ann with some more information. I think she has passed it to everybody. I'm willing to answer any questions. And this is about a high volume pump that we need to provide the town needs. We need to have large capacity of water for another large fire.
Right.
Downtown and abroad, New Harbor, Old Harbor, any accessible water supply that there is that we can get into. And that being on a mobile unit will suffice all that. So that's what I proposed here today. And we had a meeting last night, and I think the majority of the membership is on board with this. There's a few that would like to see something different, but this is going to be probably a 1.5 year thing. But I've given you information on a trailer pump. There's not a lot of companies out there that are in this business because it's a limited business. So not many people are in business to build these. So I have spoken to one other competitor that does the same thing. Very limited conversation, terrible at returning emails and phone calls to the point where I do not recommend doing business with them. The company's name is US Fire Pumps. They've been around a long time, but since last October, I've reached out probably more than a dozen times and do not get forward with that.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
No, so I don't want to get involved with a company like that out of the gate. So if anybody has any questions.
How long did these take to build?
This particular unit would be about 6 months, and I think if the others would be about the same timeline. But I gave you a cost breakdown of what it would cost.
Yes, it's in your email.
October 23, that demo unit that came out was $525. If we it was $500,000. We bought it that day, and it was $525 after that. August 24th, 2024, it would be $585. So that would be this coming August. And then if we do this over 2 years, sinking fund, you're looking at about $695 to $725. There is a new EPA coming out for ratings on engines, and the X10 motor, which Cummins pretty much Cummins carries all the truck engines, fire trucks, everything. The X10 motor, they have not built it yet, and their word is it's somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000 more.
Can I ask you a quick question, Chris?
Yeah.
What if have you had the conversation with them? What if we gave them the 350 and booked the purchase under the existing reg? Basically they took their 6 months, I'm sure it turns into 9 months. Like as a practical matter on these things.
A possible price lock is what you're talking.
Do we, can we put a 50% deposit on this so that it's being built? We've ordered it. They're made whole for that. And then we give them another, 350, 585. We give them another, say 250,000 the next year.
I can definitely have that. Yeah, I can have that conversation with them and report back to you.
Chief, how do we anticipate storing this piece of equipment?
I'm Keith. That's Chris. Two bald guys.
Tristan, the way I see it right now, it's getting very congested up at the station. It would have to be outside at the station, and I propose it to have a heavy duty tractor trailer style tarp system that's custom cut fit to it as it would be on a boat with sewn in ratchet straps, so that should keep it out of the element the best that we can until we have a building to put it into. They sit outside. They're all the Midwest. This company started out building liquid transfer pumps, and a lot of it's used in the agricultural department. And it's a little different climate. I get it. They're not sitting in the middle of the ocean, but they're not having a lot of problem with them being outside as of any other piece of equipment that might be on the island. But I think if we keep it covered up, that's the best we can do, and we'll be ready if we need it.
All right, let's expand a little bit on moving this asset around.
Excuse me?
How about moving the trailer?
Okay, so at first we were looking into a bumper hitch, and that is probably would be too heavy. They're talking about maybe moving the axles back and forth, but it would probably be a gooseneck hitch, which would limit it to a couple of vehicles. And we were speaking last night, I think in the next capital budget coming up next year or the following year, we're in there for replacing engine, truck 4. And we can have that built properly to handle the load. And or the department could just buy one out straight in the next year or so before this is delivered. I also spoke to Mike Shea, talking about with his crew, and some of them are on the department, cross-training them, because there's always a manpower shortage in a volunteer department, cross-training their guys to be able to trailer it and operate it, and also be trained by the fire department and that. So if we can cross-train some other entities, maybe some people from the power company or the water company, etc., I think that should suffice our concern on a manpower, like everyone's at the job, and then we need this piece and someone has to peel off and go get it. So I think that could work very well doing that.
Right, and then so the 4,500 gallons, there's no reason really to go tactics wise, but keeping the 2 trucks, the loaner truck and the ladder, we got 3,000 now, correct? If we hold on.
So yeah, engine 4 that we own, that is a 1,500 gallon or 1,200 gallon a minute pump on there. The ladder 1 is a 2,000, but I don't see ever putting ladder 1 to water unless it was a fire it couldn't get into and it was just moving water. That was our intent over the years, so that's why it has a suction on it. And since we've had it, we have not had to do that. Not saying it can't happen, but does that answer your question?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we have this,
will you ask and answer that again for people like me who don't have any idea what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
for the rest of us. What did you say, Chris?
I think Tristan was asking what the pump capacities were on engine 4 and the reserve ladder.
I was stating those gallons per minute. So we have 3,000 now by keeping those trucks, right? We're going to keep the old ladder and you have engine 4 totaling a little over 3,000 gallons for some assets that are going to stay inside. And this pump, we're looking at purchasing, which is going to stay outside, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Someone else?
Chris, just like we're actually just saying to Bill McComb, it's please don't take these questions as in any way a question about making sure we have appropriate capacity for pumping the water.
No. So let me run a couple of quick numbers right by you. I don't want to just, if you may not understand this, it might just sound like a bunch of words to you. In that paper that I sent you guys, it breaks down the water supply. So at the harbor side, we had tanker. The tanker went to water because it didn't need to be moving water. So that put out 2,000 gallons a minute, roughly, forward to the fire. We had about 1,500 gallons from the town, limited time, about 2 hours. Okay. So that was our start right there. So that was about 3,500 gallons a minute. And then the fire boats came in. Okay. And they put out another probably 3,000. 3,000, 4,000. I'm not sure exactly what they were doing. If we have this piece and then we're up 4,000 gallons, right? So we're at like 70, we're up by 4,000 gallons more, and that's a good amount of water to contain a fire if we have a rough sea, or the fire boats can't come.
I agree with you, Chris. We definitely, the extra gallons per minute are gonna be an asset. I'm just worried about spending this money and keeping this nice piece of equipment outside to the elements right now.
Yeah, I see your concern, Tristan, but my concern is if we don't have something like this and we need it, shame on us for worrying about it being outside. And how many years, I mean, if we get this fire station built, say in 5 years, and this thing is covered up, and we never had to use it, I think it's a very good insurance policy. But, I was just thinking the other day, in the 40 years that I've been on the department, we had Ballards, we had the Eureka, we had Sharkies, we had a good sized fire at the power company. There's one other I can't remember. So these fires do happen, and the Harborside was the other one. So they're going to happen. They're going to continue to happen. I just want to be proactive and have large capacity water for us. So if we have a crappy night and we can't get help and we stand alone, we have a very good shot of containing, especially with 2 aerial trucks.
Bill?
I know they're looking at some type of temporary, building for the ladder truck that's coming. Is it possible to get that expanded a little bit bigger, that this will be able to house in it?
I don't know whether Chris, could you hear Bill?
Yeah, Bill, I think he was asking that we have a temporary shelter that we're going to be a 20 by 40 for the aerial. Can it be a little bit wider to fit both in there? And that was a question I was going to ask Tom. And what's the inside diameter of this? And maybe both pieces will fit in there. I don't know. I didn't explore that too far, but it is a thought also.
What do you think? It's possible. Right.
Molly had a question that I wrote down, and she was asking about a fireboat. The fireboat would be a great asset. Newport puts out about 3,000 gallons a minute, but the problem, we don't have the manpower, and a fireboat needs to be exercised probably 2 or 3 times a week minimum, because a boat that sits in, like any piece of equipment, is not ideal. Worrying about it on a nor'easter when it's in the water during the season, etc. We need to have a licensed captain, couple, 2 or 3 of them. We do have that. Myself, Tristan, I believe, and Mike Ernst, and a few other of us have 100-ton licenses. But we just not there for the manpower to have something in the water like that. Someday, if we should have a part paid department or something like that, out of any community, I believe we should have a fireboat.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Because someone actually asked me that again this morning, why we didn't have one. So good answer.
It's probably somebody like me who doesn't know what they're talking about. And I always say, why don't we have a fireboat?
And there was some other talk. There's some other talk. And let me just reason this out a little bit. There's some members that are interested in a fixed mount pump in the Old Harbor. Okay, that would have a pipe system that would go up to the street. Great idea, but I think it's only going to protect Old Harbor. If we have something that's trailable, so we can protect other parts of the island, other accessible water supplies, any of the bridges we can reach over to, say, up at the Highview. If there's enough water in Mill Pond, there's a great water supply for that building. If we're over at the Narragansett, Deadeyes, Payne's Dock, going further up, there's West Side 20, Peckham's, Pier 76, the Overlook. All those are large buildings that would need large gallons per minute, and we would be able to move this to a water source to get large water flowing. If we have it stationary in town, my concern is it's just protecting town. And, you know, town's deserving of that for sure. But I think it's a large dollar. If we can protect more with it, that's where I'm at.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not against the pump. I have issues with purchasing a piece of equipment that needs to be ready 24/7 and keeping that outside to the elements.
I agree, Tristan. It's a tough call, but I think it's an insurance policy that, you know, if it's only a few years out there.
But we just heard from Tom that it's possible that we can use, pursuant to Bill's question, it's possible that we can use this temporary building where we're going to be storing the other piece of equipment.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Molly, you had a bunch of questions the other day. Are on that paper that you all have, does that answer most of them, or do you have anything?
Yeah, the material that you sent answered a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
thank you.
Hey, Chris, while we have you and Kirk, can we move on to the communications person? Because I just want to get, this is all about clarity, right?
Yeah, sure.
I want to get to clarity on this. And I want to say, first of all, we all admire and respect and value the work that Howell Conant has done and continues to do, and the value of his expertise, et cetera, et cetera. I have to say, I worry about any system where we have basically one person who knows how it works. That's like, that scares the bejeepers out of me. You know, some night when we have, as we've had, you know, a lightning storm or, you know, something goes out, and that person is unavailable for some reason. So I think, you know, my sense is that a lot of the rationale for this communications position is the communication systems are not going to get less complex or going to start advancing more slowly. I think I won't speak for everybody. I know Molly and I at the last meeting expressed, and I think Mary Ann has to me as an aside, the idea of paying Howell, you know, a stipend to be the trainer for a new person, whatever. But I don't know what this person or position looks like from your perspective and from Paul's perspective and from Mary Ann's perspective, when we need to start it, how that would all work. It would be really helpful to have that discussion, I think.
I can make a few comments on this. And
great.
So Howell has probably been doing this for 50 years up there. He built it with Pete Blaine. There isn't anybody that knows it any better, only because he spent time in the seat. He's built it. He knows what DGM goes down. He knows what to look for. Something else goes awry. He knows where to go. That being said, he knows it better than anybody, 100%, hands down. I think this position should be a two-piece position, that he is a part-time paid town employee, or however you want to do it. And then he has an assistant, because he's been asking for an assistant for a long time, that he can train from the basics to programming radios all the way through to the head end. And I would hope that person would be an island person that he can train, that eventually when Howell is done, will be able to take it over. And then maybe this person also has an assistant also. There's a lot to be said for his knowledge. So when a dispatcher calls him at 10 o'clock at night or a lightning storm or whatever it is, that person is there and they know it and they're fixing it, instead of maybe a person that applies that would maybe come from outside the island. It would take them a very long time to understand this system. Yeah, I would like to see be a couple of island people for sure, because when the dispatchers call them and they got a problem, they go there and it gets done. If an outside source is called, it may take the next day or don't know. You know, it's not going to get, in my opinion, problem solved right away and fixed. It may be it could be 24 hours. You know, so that's where I'm at. If he could be a part-time paid person with an assistant, I think that's the best. Now this other person knows all the codes and everything exactly. So, you know, Hal gets hit by a bus. This guy is vetted in there and knows what to do. You know, it's going to take probably 6 months to get him pretty comfortable, but that's how I see it.
Do you see anybody, I'm not asking for names, but do you see anybody in your view who's capable of or willing to do something like this?
He keeps bringing up the name Jacques, Andre's son, who's gone to college. His degree, I don't know exactly what it is, but it would fall into this line of work. So he keeps bringing that name in there. He has also been training him on the drone. So he seems to be a very techie, that word, right, person that may be interested in this. Other than that, I don't know. Maybe there is somebody else on the island that is also interested.
Right.
But for
That's all
clarity's
that-
sake, but for clarity's sake, we would have a job description and advertise this job.
Well,
before-
yeah, I'm just trying
okay.
to,
No, I
trying to get a
understand. I just-
picture of sort of what this might look like. And one of the things that strikes me, since we're in a budget meeting, is that if we were paying Howell a stipend and paying an assistant a stipend, it might not be all that different from the number that's in the budget.
And Keith, can you do it on take a year trial, see how it works out? Maybe it's great. Maybe it's not what the town's looking for.
Everything in government is on a 1-year.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, that's all I can bring to the table on it. You know, he's when he's up there he gets it done, and he does have a love for it and a passion for it. He can get frustrated like anybody else, but I think an assistant would take a little bit of pressure off of him, and that assistant may be on the island when Hal's away for 2 or 3 weeks, but Hal also remotely accesses a lot of stuff and is able to fix it through Kirk or through Beth or through another person. So that's all I can bring to the table. There may be a lot more to it, but that's my comments on that.
Bill?
Yeah, I think the cart's before the horse. I fully support there has to be something in this area. We had back when Michelle was our IT person, I was working with her from EMA with Howell, so there was another person that had some background at that end of it. I have no objection to this, but what I would like to see is that the fire chief, the police chief, with the town manager, get together, figure it out exactly what it is we need. There's a job description, who the person will report to, and then present and say, hey, we need the funds for this. I feel like the cart before the horse again. Not that it's a bad concept, but it hasn't, obviously, being correct, hasn't been vetted out, then the problem has itself. Like I said, where's the person who work, just like we do with the dispatch, when we put them on. You know, that's something that's all presented to the public, how it's gonna work, where they're gonna work, the job description, so.
And how is it gonna work, Bill?
How is this gonna work?
How was that going to work?
Exactly the way it is.
It was going to be self-supporting.
That might have been, that's financially might have been how it was, but the operation of it was clearly laid out, where they needed to work out, what their job description would be, and what they were doing from that exit. And that's all. I think the same thing happens here. And I think it's a good cause. I think it's the direction we're gonna go in. But again, those things should be presented out, and then the finance to support
Any other question about this communications piece?
Nope.
Say, Tristan, were you reaching for your microphone? You were reaching for your trackpad? Let's see, what else? Transfer station, I don't know whether we need Mike for this, but this is, or maybe it's Tom that's taking the point on this, on transfer station. The 150 is to develop an entire plan, is that correct?
Mike had a lead.
Yes, I just wasn't sure who the,
Hey, Keith, can I be excused? You all set with me?
no.
No?
Is it sunny down there?
Yes, I want to go in the
Well,
sun.
you're staying inside.
All right, I want to thank everybody, and if you have any questions, please feel free to call me.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
I can't completely help you. I know, Mike and I split tasks down. This one's in his swim lane, but, the talks we've been having on this were related to coming up with the plan. I know, Sean has some ideas. We're looking at some other footprints for some energy things and, you got, just to bring in consultants and hire engineers and
Yeah,
Jim Jeremy, we need a budget. So.
that's my recollection as well.
Right.
I just wanted to confirm.
So we need planning
Yeah.
development funds to access the engineers
Mhm.
and other people. So, the building obviously needs reskinning, but there's bigger, that's low hanging fruit. The real important stuff is the traffic flow and material flow. And after 25 years of the plan we have, it's time to
Mhm.
refresh it. But I don't believe there's any hard, to Bill's point.
Right, I remember this being in the capital budget since I came on the council for this coming year to do the planning, and then the next year is to do actual.
The intent is to do the planning, the study, and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, there's two particular things that have come on board or we're looking at since we've started this discussion over 3 years ago. We now are going to have an active composting site there, which we haven't had before, which is a whole new venue. That's
Yep.
going to impact the operation. Mike Shea, I think Tom's involved with this also, the power company, this whole trashology concept.
Yes,
Yep.
Which is something completely new and different that is also being explored. That is not a 20th century transfer station, as relates to all aspects of it. It is not safe. It is not automated or anything like that. So I think what you're going to see is, again, a study that needs to be done so that we can have a state of the art transfer
and
station.
I think it's important to point out on all of these things, we're seeing it here in this column because it would be, it would probably fall off this year. I think that's, whether it's the fire pump or the, whatever. Yes. Yes.
So is this money, this is to pay for the composting?
No, it's just the site planning for future improvements. Included in those plans would be the building upgrades and stuff like that, but we have to get in first and meet with the engineers, meet with the DEM and all the people that have control over that facility. So it's right now, there's no shovels in the ground for that. It's all
Okay, and
required.
then the composting, where is that in the budget? Or
That
is-
was donated by the Conservation Commission.
Okay,
We have a $15,000 garage door we need to replace. If you know where the metal recycling is, that door is twisted and warped and all that. We have to replace that to facilitate the barrel composting machine. But it will go in the side of the building, facilitated from the south end. So we need to fix, our only part is to fix the garage door. They're doing all the rest.
great. And then the trashology, is that
That's a little bit further away. We met with them this morning. The team that went out there, that was me, Mike, Sean, and Jeff Wright. This is a plan that would burn, that could potentially, don't repeat that word, could take organic waste, that's food, septage, building materials, anything that has carbon in it, and pull the volatile gases out of it, used to run a natural gas generator, and then return those carbon back to the composting and put it back in the soil. And that would reduce the number of trips off island by a significant amount. And certain times of the year.
Pretty
completely.
exciting.
yeah, it sounds pretty great. And what is the timeline on that?
They're gonna be ready for deployment in the first quarter of 25. So we need to be fitting that into our plans if we want to go that way. There's some other roadblocks that have recently come up, but we're working on that.
And Tom, just a clarification, it's Block Island Conservancy, not Conservation Commission.
don't
On the
Yeah,
compost.
Block Island
On the
Conservancy.
composting fund.
Yeah, that was,
I hear
it's been outlined in my report in the $40,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said it wrong.
If people are listening,
Yeah.
Composting plan.
So it's Block Islands Conservancy.
and they've got some outside funding as well.
Good. Thank you for the clarification.
Shoreline access, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Sorry about that.
So the 150 is for engineering plan.
Yeah.
It's not a-
Yeah. Yeah. Shoreline access is the town's match on Grace's Cove.
That's correct. We probably should be hearing about that grant, I would think, momentarily.
Oh, good.
They
Terrific.
usually come out mid-April.
Old Harbor Bulkhead. Anybody need any further about that? Kate was here. Go ahead, Molly.
Oh, I was hoping for some clarification on that, like what it, like, is this number enough for what needs to be done? Is this a patch up? Is it like a,
Sure, this is not the work. This is the engineering and permitting that would be associated with it. In the second year, 26, you'll see an estimate on the construction element. Again, that's going to be subject to how the engineering permitting phase works out.
okay, it seemed really low, so
Yeah.
thank you. That's why it's so low.
This is the bulkhead to go, is that what big dock or is this at the head?
This would be on the south dock. No, the south dock's where the building is, probably alongside. So
Yep.
likely in the same area where they currently offload, but they have to reach over, but Tom wants to add.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, Tristan?
Thank
Health services, 14. Molly, I think you had a question about this or concern about this.
I don't have a question. I had suggested that we level fund the health services for this year. Well, in here, it's under growth burden, but it does show up in the regular budget. And just because it's one of the couple places I see that there is some play in the budget that or some things that we could reduce. And, you know, we directed $150,000 to the medical center earlier this year for a generator. And we've increased the amount that we give the medical center over the last like 4 years by over $50,000. So I, you know, I think, and we are going to be facing a lot of other medical center related expenses upcoming. I guess all I'm saying is it's like I see a window where we could level fund because they're building beautiful buildings, but they're beautiful buildings that the town taxpayers need to take care of. So you know, in next year's budget, I see more boilers, more, you know, whatever, heat systems, cooling systems, generators, everything that we have to take care of. So I don't, I mean, we're being very generous. I don't think this is like a cruel cut at all. I don't look at it that way at all. I think we were exceptionally generous to the medical center already this year.
So before you go, Tom, I'll just give you my take on this. We had, first of all, the generator was a new generator for a town building. Not something we were giving to the medical center. I would also say that frankly, when you sort of look across the data that we've gotten on community support stuff, one entity gave us a comprehensive analysis of what the needs were, what the needs are in the current fiscal year, and what the needs are going to be in the future, with data about number of visits, about reimbursement, about, it's basically the most comprehensive piece of analysis we have. So, and I haven't heard that there are new things on the horizon that we're going to be spending money for. This money goes into care, and it's very, very unusual. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if we are one of the only municipalities that has a line item for direct healthcare for our residents and visitors. My bet is there certainly are not many. Tom, you would know better than I, but I think it's probably pretty unusual. But it's a model that not only has worked, but that is growing. And so anyway, I would oppose that.
Well, so here's what I'll say, like, I'm, is this the hill I want to die on? No, I'm just suggesting cuts. And I totally respect that this is an organization that is exceedingly close to your heart. And I'm just suggesting a couple of places I think that we could trim the budget a little bit.
Right. I mean,
That's all I'm saying. This
yes.
was one of them, and the other is the preschool, which I'm gonna find the number in here eventually, but in that situation, I had made the suggestion that we reduce our funding to 50% of their operating budget, which currently we're funding them at a level that's more than half of their operating budget. And again, if everybody doesn't feel that way, that's okay. I feel like I have to suggest places that we can trim the budget a little bit, because we're looking at a really big budget. So
I'm totally with you, but I have the same obligation, I think, to my feeling about it.
Yeah.
To say that would, from my perspective, not be an acceptable cut.
And ultimately, it's all up to the voters, because any of these things can be cut or added to at financial town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope the voters understand that. That's, I'm not looking to cut things. I do think, since the doctor's here, I would say after the presentation last week, I did talk to some people who work at other hospitals, and they thought that the collection rate you had on emergencies was low. You think it's low too. So there have to be some strategies to improve on that. So that would be one thing. The other thing that I sort of garnered from that presentation was that I think it would be important for the medical board and the police department to sit down and sort of have a talk through issues session before summer starts, because it seemed to me as if there was a little friction there, and there doesn't need to be. So I feel like that's something that if you guys were to sit down with the police department and be like, hey, please don't leave people on our doorstep in the middle of the night. And, they could, you guys could figure that out.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. And, just to give you some numbers and some other anecdotes is almost 23,000 patients served in the last 3 years. And I'm going to bring it up because you mentioned the increase in money in the last 3 years. So I'll just confine myself to that point. So 23,000 patients served, 462 ambulances served. I think you would find that there is no other community health center that consumes anybody's ambulances except us. So therefore, it is a bit of a unicorn. It's kind of like what happens with fire and police. We're on our own for the most part. We've done 2,200 blood draws, phlebotomy for island families. Our patients are not. We don't get paid. That's a service. So I know that I'll just say for Councilman O'Neill mentioned that we're a private business. I look at it as, it seems that we're a private business when people want it to be, but I really do look at it as more of a public-private partnership. We accept ambulances. We shouldn't have to, but we do. We shouldn't have to take deficits and payments for that, but we do as a payment. And that in an effort, I think in a lot of what Billy's been mentioning is, if we want to be self-sufficient as a medical center and not require any community grant funding, we have to be able to morph into the alternate payment models. That was the kind of the part of my narrative. We were stuck between two worlds. We want to go in this way if we were a private business, but we have to get stuck and mired into what the community needs are when it comes to injuries. And we're all for it. We're all for it for families of the island, seasonal families of the island. We're here to help trauma and rescue. We don't have any friction. We do have adult conversations. We don't need marriage makers. We have regular conversations with these individuals, but we do have regular discrepancies that we are working through. So I think it's an opportunity to clarify some things, because when it gets stated here, it gets out into the public forum that I think we've been a good steward of monies. I really do. I think we've been a good I'll only speak for my tenure. I think we've been good stewards of the financial monies that the town has given us. We continue to grow the services for the medical center. Like I said, 37%, 34%. Everything is up. I think a 3.5% increase is a nominal fee compared to what else has been discussed here after a privately funded $8 million expansion, not only for the benefit of the medical center, but for our community, our island community. Tremendous efforts by the board and our philanthropy groups. But that was an $8 million private funded project that now we have to hand over to the town because that's how it works. And I think there's some opportunities for conversation there, but we're already up 7.1% this quarter compared to Q1 last year. So we're just continuing to grow. So what is the 3.5% for? Because Billy's brought it up a couple of times and I think it's fair. We're meeting with a private pharmacy group. We are at the mercy of the weather. So we have members of the community that both come in transiently and those that live here that have to wait because meds only get flown over. So there's an opportunity for us to improve our pharmacy availability, our auditing process, which could be far more optimal than it currently is, but we do it out of necessity. So looking to have a private partnership in that regard would be a real benefit. And also the 3.5 is to help with the community PCP program that's really serving our elders, those individuals that need palliative care on the island. So again, I think it's a pretty small amount compared to what we talk about and what I've participated in with some of these numbers. And again, after an $8 million privately funded project. And I would like to maybe clarify, I think if there's a belief that the town comes to the office on a regular basis to fix things, that would be incorrect. We have a deductible, if you want to use that term. We have to pay the medical center for upkeep of the town's building to a certain amount. And then we need to live with the dysfunction until some budgetary item can be allowed. So right now, if the generator were to die, we have no generator. So that is a town generator for a town building that we have a public-private partnership for. You mentioned upcoming expenses. Could you elaborate what upcoming expenses for the medical center would be?
Well, I'm talking about, like you said, you just are spending $8 million to upgrade the buildings, but I'm just saying that's more buildings. Like, I don't know, Tom, how many town buildings do we have? 27. So now we have 28 with the new building out back for the students, right? And we have $1 million bond out for the renovation of the doctor's house. And I'm just saying, like it expenses add up. I'm just saying.
I mean, we can have a conversation that we could keep the buildings. And then, but the scenario is, I just don't want it to be misunderstood that there's not a regular communication with Tom Rissom about coming in and fixing the town's building. We have windows that are broken, sashes that are rotted out. We pay for them. When we need to update things, we pay for them. So I just don't want it to be misunderstood by the community because it comes from a council member that the town projects are being managed at the medical center on a regular basis. That is not accurate. So that's where I would love in my 4+ years here to have a better clarity about what is this public-private partnership. It's a private business that we could change how we act as a business, but we do it in partnership with the town, and the town has been very generous to us. I think we've been good stewards of that money. I think we have you get a lot of value for the money that you put into the medical center. And I'm not saying that you devalue that. I'm just saying 3.5% here, I think goes a long way for us to continue to do what we need to do, but also support in that not to be an impediment for us to continue to evolve into something that is much more self-sufficient. And again, as you mentioned, 50% of the budget of that one entity. At this point, it would be 24% of our budget. The rest is by what we can generate in revenue. We're going to be more hardliner about how to generate revenue. That's going to come probably to some ire of members of the community and the tourism population, which may enter into your chamber at some point. But then I hope that people would say, I trust that between the medical team, the medical board, and we have a physician advisory board, that we're doing our best to evolve the medical center in a way that is both a good partner. I think if we want to talk about a 50-50 partnership, I think that would be even a better kind of strategy. But I just want to let you know that you're getting a lot for your dollars. I just want to make sure that we're very hyper accurate in what we say here, because yes, they're town buildings, but they're mostly repaired by us.
So that's something I didn't realize, right? Because, I mean, we have so many town buildings and we have so many town buildings that are in need of repair in various states of repair.
Yeah, what we do is that we put through a capital request, like probably every other group. And whether that request get honored or not, it's changed. We put in a $30,000 request for flooring 3 years ago and never happened. And we live with it because we knew there was an upcoming building change, but that building financing wasn't from the town. There hasn't been one town dollar other than maybe an expunging of a building permit and maybe a few in-kind surveys or engineering processes. But I just feel like I have to defend that this is a hugely private funded project. And I'm not saying the town doesn't give us things and isn't an in-kind partnership, but I just want it to be understood that the way it's being projected is that you're in there fixing our buildings. That's really not accurate.
So can I add something here? We have a lease with the medical center. Anything $5,000 less than the lease is the responsibility of the medical center. Anything over that is the responsibility of the town through the budgetary process.
Mhm.
I hesitate. I'm concerned here that the discussion, I'm getting the feel the discussion is going, we're not working together as a team. And I don't think that's the case at all with the medical center in the town. Tom Rizzo makes himself available when needed. I make myself available. Charlie Weber does call me occasionally with this ongoing project, and Tom's right. $8 million was a major fundraiser.
We also, but we pay for Charlie Weber.
Right.
So it isn't like that Charlie wasn't.
He's the
no.
OPM. He's the
You're right.
OPM for that project. So I want to be clear. I think we do have a partnership with the medical center, and I don't want anyone to walk away from this discussion thinking anything else. You know, you mentioned something about, you know, the conversation with the police. The chief meets with the medical center. They've met with the medical center, though I'm sure Boheen has met with Tom already.
Yeah, I've always said.
Strong partnership.
We do have a strong partnership. I just don't want to be misunderstood. I don't need marriage makers. I'm free to talk to the fire and rescue. We have. I'm free to talk to the police. We have. We take care of our own.
Talk to me too.
We take care of our own issues.
Right, so I'm glad to have this clarification, because obviously I didn't know that. And I didn't know that. And I come to every budget meeting for years and years, did not know that. So it's good to know what the agreement is. But my comments about the police come just from the presentation we saw last week.
I was just giving you a snapshot of a reality. Doesn't mean that we don't have issues that we work through, but we work through them on a regular basis like adults. It's just that it's still a reality of the world that we live in here.
Okay, but then I have a different concern, which is you just said a couple minutes ago that you do accept ambulances, but you shouldn't have to. And I think that's a fundamental,
Well, maybe I misunderstood that because I don't want it to be the point of, it's not, maybe it's bad wordsmithing. I'm saying that we receive patients through the rescue that would not be an emergency almost in any other municipality. But as we have discussed at multiple levels, the police are bound by a certain level of what they can do here. Then they call fire rescue. Fire rescue is bound to what they can do here. And then it ends up at the medical center for really what wouldn't be considered an emergent issue. And it's not me saying it's emergent. In that EMS system, everything is rated as a green, yellow, red. So every green individual that comes to the medical center by rescue should never be a rescue. But because either there's nothing else that anybody can do with this individual, you have a drunk individual, that there's no sober adult to be with them. Going back to Vin Carlone, there may be a legacy. He doesn't feel like they can be held at the police station, right or wrong. EMS can't hold them, so they come to the medical center. So if we're seeing 23,000 patients and I have to deal with somebody that wouldn't come to the doorsteps of any other organization, it's time, energy, resources. So wordsmithing, I should have used a better word.
no, that's a.
We
better
choose
explanation.
to be part of this public health
You're not
system.
talking about trauma.
I'm not talking about trauma. I'm talking about things that would never make it to an emergency status that we have to accept 24 hours a day because there's nobody else to do it. So I think, again, the 3.5% increase is part of a larger $409,000 ask. I think 409,000 is a well-utilized dollar amount that the town spends on the medical services that they get.
Thank you.
I've got a kind of a follow-up question. When does the lease come up for renewal?
We just did a couple of amendments in order to support the $1.8 million that
The feds
a
gave
couple
us.
of grants that they had to extend it. Off the top of my head right now, I don't know the date.
It's about 5 years. We usually go in 5-year
I think
intervals.
it's a 5 years because I think we voted.
It was originally 3.
on the
We used
last
to do
one.
3.
For us to get the money that came from Senator Whitehouse and Reed's
Right.
kind of advocacy, we had to make sure that we had a lease that was beyond, I think, a year that we had. So we just re-upped it for 5 years.
It was the same thing when we also signed off on the 2 vans we're getting. We had a sign off saying that we'll continue ownership for 5 years. It's the same situation. So they had to have the lease extended to 5 years.
Yeah, I guess my point really here was that I think sometimes we don't all have the same information. I mean, I was around when the medical center was built, so I remember the structuring and the form and why it was done the way it was done, and that there's a lease and it comes through here, and I think people who are new to the council may not be aware of that, of the full structure, and we don't get a good, it's not anybody in particular's fault, it's just what things fall through the cracks. You probably should do a better orientation program for council. Which has nothing to do with you, Dr. Walker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay.
I would just like to respond to the observation that our collection rates for emergency care might be lower than other facilities. That is no surprise. How many medical facilities anywhere are required to serve a vacationing population? I mean, you all know, we all get flooded in the summertime by people who are here on vacation. They're not often behaving as responsibly as they would. I hope they would be more responsible at home. But they come out here, they get into trouble. Our medical staff gets up in the middle of the night and puts them back together. And then they leave the island the next day and don't pay their bills. It would be kind of astonishing if we got paid at the same rate that urgent care places on the mainland got paid that aren't subject to that. And I would just also say, I've been getting my primary care at the medical center for 22 years now. And it has been amazing how over the past decade, not only the level of care, but the breadth of care has so expanded. The outreach to the community, the awareness of community health and preventive care is so much stronger than when I first started getting my primary care here. And I am grateful for that. I mean, now at 79, I need more of that care. And I am so grateful that it's there for me and all my age peers. I'm grateful that we're paying attention to workers' compensation, what do they call it? And I think that was never the case when workers were injured. We weren't trying to collect for that. We're collecting for that now. So I really feel that tremendous progress has been made. We have all benefited from it. We will benefit more as the facility expands. And I don't think this is the time to level fund. I think we all are benefiting from the support of the medical center. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that I think Molly raised at our last meeting that Tristan has raised in this one. Oh yeah, sorry, David. I was absorbed in my own.
David Lewis. I'd just like to make a statement about the medical center as well. I'm thinking off the cuff now, but I think it's relevant. There are two organizations in the community support world that I trust by virtue of the people that are running. One is the medical center in the person of Dr. Walkup, and the other one is the fire and rescue. And I can't name a name because I think my statement applies to every chief that has served in recent years. To a person, those individuals in the fire department and in the medical community, people I trust implicitly for most of the things that they would tell me, including budget requests. We've funded the medical center very well in recent years. We've done the same thing with the fire department. In both cases, we saw the need. 4 or 5 years ago, we saw the need to fund significantly for the training of the next generation of firefighters, and that has paid off well, and it continues to pay off. And there's numerous other things that the fire department makes arguments for, reasoned argument for funding for which the community obliges them. This summer, obviously, the homicide stands out. Before I say that, one of the reasons why these organizations and those leaders deserve my trust, have earned my trust, is because they do, in fact, get the job done professionally and well. And it doesn't make a whole lot of difference that one is a volunteer service and the other is a paid for an employer of significance in the community. They do get the job done. Speaking for the summer of 2023, we all have the homicide in our minds, but there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion that I've heard of about the miracle that they worked at the Sam Peckham's Tavern in 4th of July weekend when there was a significant fire contained to one department early in the morning, yet with the resources that they had in terms of personnel and training and the physical resources the town has provided, because the fire department thought that they needed those things. They got the job done with little fanfare. Huge success, but little fanfare. That building could have gone up just as badly as the homicide. So I don't know that the fire department has ever heard that spoken publicly by a grateful citizen or not, but there it is. So why am I making this point? These people earn my trust because they get the job done and they know a lot more about their business than I know about their business. And I feel at some point, since they do get the job done and they get a job done reasonably and thinking forward, that they deserve my support. And I would hope it has the not only the council's full support, but the communities as well at financial town meeting. Thank you.
David. Thank you. Any other questions today? Thoughts, comments? The only comment I would make is, there's a bit of a, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them on this document, the old public speaking adage. And while the text is very well done, I think it is natural, certainly what I do when I get a magazine or a piece of paper like this. I think as we work through this, and this is a lot to part of Bill McComb's point, the more meat we have on the bones, the better. The more detail we have, the better. You know, having a sense on the Northlight project of kind of what the priority areas are and what we think it's going to take to get those done. Communications. I mean, I get it. I have had calls since I was on the council and conversations with the fire department, with rescue. I think probably all of us have had these conversations with real concern about what is the long-term view on communications. And but there's a narrative there that I think we need to beef up if and when we're going to financial town meeting on this stuff. So I think if anything, this meeting kind of points that out. Do you guys want to adjourn?
I just wanted to add something to something David said, because I was trying to find a date. The fire department also was down there in the middle of the night at the Harbor Church when we got a lightning strike last summer.
Oh, right.
Some pretty interesting pictures of the ladder going all the way up to the turret.
Yeah.
I just want to add too, I hope people don't misconstrue me asking questions about this budget for being against or for any department. I have been a member of the Ladies Auxiliary of the Fire Department for 22 years. I am absolutely 100% not against the fire department or any other organization in this town. But we're asking the taxpayers to pay a lot of money. And if we just sit up here and rubber stamp this whole budget, like, looks great, see you guys in May for the financial town meeting, then we are not doing our job. And so I feel like every department that's asking the taxpayers for money should come up to the podium and explain why they're asking for money. And they should allow themselves to be opened up to have people ask questions and to present praise or a different viewpoint. Or constructive criticism, or say, we don't think that's a good idea. But I just want to be clear, like, when we get to financial town meeting, for anybody listening here, taxpayers, get up, ask some questions. That is your right as a taxpayer. We are one of the few towns that still has a financial town meeting, and that is your venue. And everyone should feel like they have the opportunity to get up and ask questions, or to just say something nice about the department that they are going to vote for the money to go to. So that's it.
In response, I'd like to say I appreciate the way you ask questions, and I do appreciate that you do ask questions, because you probably know I ask a lot of questions too. And you said,
David.
and the fact that it promotes dialogue, you know, it doesn't have to be a confrontational question, but it opens up a dialogue. So, you know, some of the questions you asked, in fact, just presented the opportunity to open a dialogue.
Yep.
Me in this instance, but I do appreciate that. So, no hard feelings here. Keep up the
100%.
good work.
100%. Yes. Bill?
There was some good point brought up today, whether it was to fund a truck for half a year, to buy the whole truck, whatever it might be on top of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then also, I happen to agree very strongly with Tristan, if that's a route this town decides to go, I think to leave a piece of equipment like that outside is foolish. I think we would lose so much. So I hope that it would be a look at the budgeting, so hopefully that's something bigger to be put into.
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess from a procedural standpoint, there was a lot of dialogue so far today. What are the next steps for the, I know fire chief will get back to you with some information. What's the next step for, you say, are you still adjusting or, I mean, you know, like the pumps are good example.
We're scheduled to act tomorrow. Right, is that right?
Yes, that's
Yes. I think for me, this is quite weighty and large. I would like to I'd like a couple of things. One is I think to Molly's point, to your point, Bill, to you know, I think having greater detail on a lot of these things is important. And I think it exists, you know, I'm pretty comfortable. I have a lot of confidence there. So it's, but I think it's fair that we want to make sure that people, because there will be people who walk into financial town meeting, have not paid, have not attended, have not read a single thing. So there's that. I think presumably Mary Ann and Amy have kind of heard that clearly. You know, I also think we're talking about a budget increase that is not only significant because it is, or, you know, you insert your word here, but is in a way almost revolutionary, you know, because if we're doing these significant investments for us, you know, it's kind of funny to, you know, for us, these are really significant increases. And we're also going to parallel track a fundamental change in the way that we assess property taxes potentially. So, you know, by using a homestead exemption. And to me, those are decisions both on the budget, you know, on the budget side and on the revenue side that need a lot of light, a lot of oxygen, a lot of transparency, you know, and people, I hope come, you know, assuming we advance this forward, I think we'll solve one of the things that Molly always says, and she's right. We'll have a lot of people at the financial town meeting, you know, to meet and talk about it. I don't know whether that answers the question, Bill, but that's.
So you're not, are you going, I guess,
Yeah.
you're gonna get information back from Amy and town manager. You guys can discuss that again and see if you want to make any changes.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry.
Because it's scheduled for, well, are you locked into tomorrow because of the time sensitive as well?
We stay tuned a little bit because I don't know the exact answer to that. I know that Millie and Amy and Mary Ann very thoughtfully back down from the financial town meeting date, if I recall correctly. So there's not a lot of flexibility. Maybe none.
So you have to vote tomorrow on the budget for your timeframe?
Amy, I'm going to let Amy answer that because she'll.
Not that you should know this.
No. It's an important question.
No, in order to meet all the milestones between here and financial town meeting, the council must act on the budget by the end of the day Friday.
So if there are a lot of questions and stuff. Absolutely. I tend to agree with that. But I hadn't had that answer. Did you see me dance? Oh, you can't see my feet. Go on. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming.